Welcome to the HarvestNet podcast, where we discuss topics such as leadership, ministry, and church planting, as we aim to fulfill the Great Commission together through relational connections. HarvestNet International is a global network that exists to network and equip frontline workers for world harvest. It is our hope to see the gospel preached in all nations and to partner with others who share a common goal. We hope that this podcast will encourage, equip, and empower you. For more information on HarvestNet, please visit our website at harvestnetinternational.com.
Hi, Barry Wissler here with another HarvestNet podcast. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the HarvestNet podcast, where we discuss topics such as leadership, ministry, and church planting, as we aim to fulfill the Great Commission together through relational connections. HarvestNet International is a global network that exists to network and equip frontline workers for world harvest. It is our hope to see the gospel preached in all nations and to partner with others who share a common goal. We hope that this podcast will encourage, equip, and empower you. For more information on HarvestNet, please visit our website at harvestnetinternational.com.
Wickedness in the heavenly places. So, whether the opposition or troubles coming from outside,
Welcome to the HarvestNet podcast, where we discuss topics such as leadership, ministry, and church planting, as we aim to fulfill the Great Commission together through relational connections. HarvestNet International is a global network that exists to network and equip frontline workers for world harvest. It is our hope to see the gospel preached in all nations and to partner with others who share a common goal. We hope that this podcast will encourage, equip, and empower you. For more information on HarvestNet, please visit our website at harvestnetinternational.com.
Christ has been victorious. The devil's been defeated. There's nothing like that on the earth anymore. Everything is just natural. And there is a spiritual war that the New Testament's very clear about. We know that Christ was victorious, and he's in the process now of putting all his enemies under his feet. There's still an enemy, still at work. And if we're on the front lines of serving God in his church or in our culture, we will experience opposition. And I think we're sort of involved in Jesus putting his enemies under his feet. So we have to put our armor on. We have to be armed for it and ready. But I want you to know that you were born for battle. You were born into battle. I know a lot of Christians treat Christianity like they were born into a cruise ship, and it's summertime. I know we're all trying to take some time to relax, so I'm not against rest or relaxation. And yet, becoming a Christian and becoming a serious Christian is not like a cruise ship. It's a little bit more like a battleship where there are threats and dangers, and we persevere past all of them. So the battle is real. We just have to learn how to fight the good fight of faith. My spiritual father, Alan Vincent, would always say, which is the good fight of faith? And people would be quiet, and he'd say, it's the one you win. And I think God wants us to be victorious, even in the pressure that comes against us. I think the whole church needs to exist and live in a state of readiness. And we should be trained and prepared for warfare. Sometimes it catches us off guard. I mean, one of the elements of warfare is the element of surprise. But it comes in many different ways. And so the best thing that an army needs to do is be prepared, be trained, be disciplined, so that no matter what comes up, we can deal with the threat and the opposition and go on to do our job. I want to tell one story from the American Civil War, and I know there's international guests listening here today, but America had a civil war. You probably know about it, the North against the South. And at the start of the war, the mindset of the North was not realistic. Crowds of civilians followed the troops to the first battle, carrying picnic lunches, and they sort of treated it like a football match, where they were going to go watch their sons and nephews fight, and they hoped to see them in action, see them win, and then pack up their stuff and go home before sunset. The thought of real war was not in their mind. The North thought that they would be able to beat the South easily. They thought the South would probably lay down their weapons as soon as the first shots were fired. But they had no idea the pain and suffering that first battle would have, and that the protracted war would have. The day of the first battle was a really warm day. The Northern soldiers were marching toward the battle. They were getting hot. They began to lay aside some of their gear, some of their supplies, because it was too heavy, and being hot, it was too heavy to carry. So they arrived at the front of the battle without enough of ammunition and supplies. Some of them walked at their own pace instead of staying with their commander, instead of staying with their unit. They sort of went their own way. They didn't really take it that seriously. And so some arrived late. And during the first battle, the North was badly defeated because they weren't prepared. They had not trained. They were undisciplined. They were not working together. They thought they could just show up and win just because they were the North. So I think the church must take it seriously. It's good for us to be prepared. And I'm not going to do a lengthy teaching on spiritual war today, but God himself declared spiritual war right after the fall of man, right in Genesis. And, he talked, there was enmity that was between the serpent and the seed of the woman. And it just means like a antagonistic opposition. And it's been there between the devil and God's people, and through the church, and whether it's the church as a whole or whether it's us as individuals. But I believe that the God of peace, as Paul says in Romans, wants to crush Satan under our feet. And that means that we can walk over him. We can walk past him. We can plunder the gates of hell to reach the lost. We can overcome all the kinds of opposition and difficulties that we have that are spiritual in nature. God wants to crush Satan beneath your feet as a leader. But like all armies, we need to become disciplined and a disciplined team. We have to be prepared. Paul told Timothy, teaching a young man, he said, God has not given you a spirit of timidity, but of power, love, and discipline. And as Christians, we need the power of God. We need to move in love on the earth, because we're not fighting people, we're fighting demonic forces. And he's given us a spirit of discipline. That's interesting. I mean, many charismatics, to be honest, many modern Christians today need discipline, because everything is about easy grace and, enjoying life. And actually, if we're going to engage with the enemy to reach the lost and in missions and even in advancing the kingdom in our city, we will need to wage war. I always thought it was interesting that Alexander the Great traveled with 400 books when he waged his war campaigns. In other words, he just didn't say, okay, let's go out, we're gonna take this tribe or this area. But he was a student, he studied, he thought, he had strategy, and that's how we come to victory. There is that side of spiritual warfare. It's not warfare. It's not just a matter of enduring. It's a matter of overcoming. But armies run on discipline. And I know it's not a real popular word today, but everything from fasting to Bible study to other kinds of spiritual disciplines, community, submission, obedience, these are all things that are important. Armies who win have first subjected themselves to fanatical discipline. And you know what it's like in every nation, no matter what nation you're in, that if you're in the army, they make sure that you're physically fit. They make sure you're trained, and you do repetitive training over and over so that it becomes instinctive how to respond in the case of trouble. And also, armies need to be able to accomplish their goals one step at a time. It's rarely that we win a major battle in one instance. It's usually a process of resisting the devil, watching him flee from us, resisting again, and each battle, of course, varies. There's a story that I love. It's about two teams that were racing to Antarctica, just to discover it. They actually left the edge of Antarctica the same time they were going towards the center to the pole. One team arrived 13 days early and returned on the very day that their plan stated they would return. Very accurate. The team that lost was the one that pushed as much as they could each day. So they would drive hard and till the end of the day and then camp. And they actually became weary and exhausted. But the team that won, what they did is they agreed to a 20-mile march every day. And if they got the 20 miles done by 2 or 3 in the afternoon, they stopped. That was their day's assignment. And they took the rest of the time off to relax, rest for the next 20-mile march. And if they did 20 miles each day, they would reach their goal on time. Well, some days it snowed and it took them, all day, 12, 14 hours to do their 20 miles. But that was rare. And they did their miles, and they actually accomplished their goal and reached one day early, and they rested. And then they came back on the day that they scheduled. So I guess the lesson here is what is your 20-mile march? In other words, to take vision that you have for your ministry, your life, and put it into reality. The prophet says, write the vision down so you can read it while you run. So you need to have a plan. You need to have it written. But can you break up what needs to be done into smaller increments and be satisfied and happy with a little bit of progress every day? The question today is not what you'll need to do tomorrow and next week or next year, but first the question is what to do today. What is your 20-mile march? There's a book that I love the title. It's called A Long Obedience in the Same Direction. And it's basically just doing the right thing long enough and you make progress. You know the story of the rabbit and the turtle. And I think the turtle won the race because he just plodded steadily along. I'm not sure, I forget. The rabbit got distracted or something like that. But people that succeed in life are not always just those that are incredibly amazing, but they are people who will persevere and keep going at a goal. They might even have setbacks. Other people might think they're crazy, but they just keep obeying God and they keep making some progress, and eventually they make an impact. Going back to our story with the two teams going to the Antarctica, the team that lost, they tried some fancy new machines. The problem is that the machines didn't work in the cold Arctic area. They froze. So their plan B was to use ponies, and then the ponies froze. The winner actually took time before the race to go learn from Eskimos. He lived with them, asked them questions, and they said, oh, dogs are going to be the best. Use dogs, don't use ponies. So that's what they used. They used dogs. And so it illustrates the need for us to learn from others, other people that have done it before, that lived through it. Ask them questions. You may not be impressed with them because, of course, you're amazing, and I believe you are, but there are things you can learn from people that have gone before you, people that have done it. Talk to people that are doing something now that you would like to do, and just watch what they do, ask questions. You can learn that way. But let's take the battle seriously. We're in a spiritual battle. We need to continue to make progress. Many times when I ask requests for prayer, leaders tell me that there's always somebody in the crowd that's thinking about quitting. The joke is pastors on Monday mornings always think about quitting, and by Tuesday they're working on their sermon for the next week. But we have these moments, and we need to learn to persevere and to stay in the race rather than just dropping out. Again, folks, our mission is to plunder hell. And Jesus tells us that the gates of hell will not they will not stand against us. They will not be able to keep us back. We can go through, we can plunder, we can do this even under intense spiritual opposition. And I'm sure there's some of you listening to this today need to hear this. God is on your side. If he's for you, who could be against you? And if you persevere, you know what he's called you to do. Keep doing the right thing and keep doing it a long time. Stick at it. Fight the good fight of faith, and eventually you will win, and God will crush Satan beneath your feet. You have a great summer. Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us today. We are so thankful that you took the time to listen. If you enjoyed what you heard, please like and subscribe to our channel and feel free to share this episode with your friends. To learn more or to give to HarvestNet, visit the link in our channel description. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at HarvestNet International.